If there were a film that launched Christopher Nolan's career as a movie director, it was Batman Begins. Hey guys, how you doing today? It's P.E. Gilbert, your blogger, writing consultant, and the author to the fantasy novella, The Sultan's Daughter. And today, we shall be reviewing Batman Begins, with particular emphasis on how to write an origin story. But before we go any further with today's video, hit that subscribe button. Batman Begins is a brilliant film, and it rebooted the Batman franchise. To give you a bit of background to this film, between 1989 and 1997 there were 4 Batman films. Yet, 1997's unwatchable Batman and Robin seemed to have killed the franchise, with those bat nipples, bat butts, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's cheesy one-liners that he seemed to be the king of back in his heyday.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! All right, everyone, chill. Let's kick some ice.
After Batman and Robin, for 8 years there were no Batman films. Yeah, there were some proposals, as well as talk of a Robin spin-off, but like Nicolas Cage's Superman film, none came to fruition, and it was probably for the best. No one wanted to watch a Robin film after Chris O'Donnell's needy, annoying performance in the aforementioned, much-maligned Batman and Robin. Indeed, the Batman franchise seemed sunk, never to see the light of the movie theatres again. But then, in the summer of 2005, Batman Begins came, and it surprised us all. Christopher Nolan had revitalised this iconic character with a unique origin story that gripped the world and catapulted him to fame. In fact, Batman Begins had such an impact on the movie-making industry that in the decade that followed, Spider-Man 3, Skyfall, Terminator Genesis, 2015's Fantastic Four, and Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice all tried, and mostly failed, to replicate Christopher Nolan's formula for success in one guise or another. So what made Batman Begins so good? Well, everything really. Particularly though, the origin story for this iconic character. The story arc for Bruce Wayne / Batman, played by Christian Bale. Cleverly, the starting point for our hero in this film is at his nadir. He has a memory / nightmare of the day he was attacked by bats before waking up to find himself in a grim Chinese jail. Yeah, you don't get much lower than that. He is a lost soul in need of someone to remind him of what he was initially looking for. Enter Liam Neeson's Henry Ducard, or at least that's what he refers to himself as here. Remember this, as it's going to be important later on. Ducard offers Bruce the chance to join the League of Shadows, which Bruce takes up because it enables him to seek the means to fight criminals and injustice, or as he puts it,
I seek the means to fight injustice, to turn fear against those who prey on the fearful.
Nevertheless, the fascinating part about Bruce's time with the League of Shadows is not his physical training, even though those scenes are pretty cool and fun to watch. Rather, it's the mental side of his training that is so engaging, because we learn about where he got his fear of bats from, how that fear made him feel responsible for the deaths of his parents, and how their deaths traumatized and angered him to the point where it ended up with him in a Chinese jail. It all makes for a complex, multifaceted and deeply flawed main character / borderline anti-hero. Yet, interestingly, despite all that Bruce has been through, he has never lost his moral conscience, his fine sense of justice, or his faith in people. This causes him to break with the League of Shadows and burn down their headquarters, particularly as they want him to destroy Gotham, his home city, which he refuses to do. Subsequently, after a 7-year absence, Bruce returns to Gotham to take on the corrupt, or more specifically, to fight the criminal underworld. It is at this point that he decides that his enemies are going to feel his fear of bats, and he is going to make them dread him.
What the hell are you? I'm Batman.
But when Bruce delves a little deeper into the dealings of crime lords Falcone and Dr. Crane, he learns that the situation is far worse than he could ever have imagined. The League of Shadows has infiltrated every level of Gotham's corrupt infrastructure and has dumped a hallucinogenic drug into the water system, and with the aid of a microwave emitter stolen from Wayne Enterprises, they intend to destroy Gotham through fear and panic. Oh, and Bruce also learns that the League of Shadows is now led by Henry Ducard, Bruce's former mentor, who was really Ra's al Ghul all along. Thus, the climactic battle is a fantastic master versus pupil fight with the survival of Gotham at stake as well. It is also the moment when Bruce learns to finally do what is necessary in order to overcome his adversaries.
I won't kill you. But I don't have to save you.
Well, sort of. He won't kill after all. Nevertheless, by the end of the film, as a viewer, we feel like we have been on a journey of transformation through Bruce Wayne. From him being a lost soul both physically and mentally, as well as racked by fear and guilt and fueled by anger, Bruce has faced his demons, turned his fear on those who prey on the fearful, and now has a purpose in life. He is Batman, and he is out to bring criminals to justice and to make Gotham a safer and less corrupt place. The supporting characters. Batman Begins is awash with a terrific supporting cast. With the exceptions of Rachel Dawes and Bill Earl, who we'll come to shortly, all the major secondary characters act as mentors to Bruce in one capacity or another. His father, Thomas Wayne, as well as Alfred, Jim Gordon and Lucius Fox all give him positive guidance, support, assistance and/or life-changing advice at various points of the narrative. Indeed, Alfred has one of the most touching moments in the film.
You still haven't given up on me. Never.
This scene comes on the heels of Bruce speaking to Alfred like he doesn't care about him, as well as moments after Bruce tells his guests to rudely get out of his house party, adds to the poignancy of the scene. All of Bruce's positive mentors contrast with and ultimately outweigh his negative mentor, the villainous Henry Ducard / Ra's al Ghul, although, in saying that, Bruce would never have found his path without Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows. This adds to the complex nature of the film, as it shows that even a negative influence can have an inadvertently positive and significant impact on a character. As for Rachel Dawes, played by Katie Holmes in this film, while she gives him some positive guidance, her role in the film isn't really to guide or assist Bruce. Rather, she is one of the leaders in the fight against organised crime in Gotham, and if anything, Bruce / Batman is helping her. Rachel's fortitude in doing such a dangerous job is not the only thing that makes her character interesting. She has guilt toward Bruce because of what she said to him the day that Joe Chill was shot, and she also can be very patronising to him as well.
Can't change the world on your own.
What choice do I have? You're too busy swimming.
In part, her condescending attitude to Bruce can be seen as a manifestation of her guilt, which makes her three-dimensional and human. Lastly for this section, let's look briefly at Bill Earl, played by Rutger Hauer in this film. Is it me, or is there something Trump-esque about him? It's just a thought. Then again, Batman Begins came out in 2005, so we shouldn't put too much time on this comparison. The ideas within Batman Begins. Batman Begins is a film full of ideas. Indeed, you'd be hard-pressed to find a scene that does not have an idea in it. Arguably, the most important idea that the film puts forward is the one about becoming more than a man, a symbol if you like, and what that entails for the plot, as well as for people in the real world too.
You really started something. Bad cops running scared, hope on the streets.
Then there is the idea about justice and what the word actually means. Justice is a highly emotive word, and it means something different to seemingly everyone who uses it. And the same is true in Batman Begins, as every character has a different understanding for the word.
Justice is balance. You burned my house and left me for dead. Consider us even.
My parents deserve justice.
You're not talking about justice, you're talking about revenge.
Sometimes they're the same.
No, they're never the same, Bruce. Justice is about harmony, revenge is about you making yourself feel better. That is why we have an impartial system.
Oh, your system is broken.
The latter clip highlights some of the difficulties of bringing about justice through a state-based judicial system. If the system seems to be broken, then how can it serve justice? Nevertheless, by the end of the movie, Batman Begins sort of comes to a conclusion on what justice is.
Justice is about more than revenge, so thank you.
This scene also shows us that Bruce has a more mature understanding for what justice is, and it reflects his journey of transformation undergone throughout the course of the narrative. The subliminal messages within the film. Batman Begins has two noteworthy subliminal messages, and both of them are done in the most touching of ways. The first of the two that we shall discuss is said by Rachel Dawes to Bruce.
It's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you.
This message is delivered in the second person, meaning that it speaks directly to the audience, and it is such an important message. Words saying you're this or that? That doesn't mean anything. It is what you do that counts. To put it the old-fashioned way, coined by Abraham Lincoln, actions speak louder than words. It was true when he said it back in 1856, and it is just as true today. He lived by those words, and if he did it, then so can we. The second subliminal message is possibly the most moving of the series. It is said by Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father, and later repeated by Alfred.
Why do we fall? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
In life, we all take knocks and setbacks. We all fall, both literally and metaphorically. That is why the message speaks to us all. Yes, we may need help sometimes to get back on our 2 feet, but that's okay. The important part is that we do get back on our 2 feet, that we can get back on our 2 feet. And when we do, we will rise again, and we will be even better versions of the person that we were before our fall. The cinematography in Batman Begins. Batman Begins is a dark and gritty film, and this is epitomised in its cinematography. Of course, the film has style as well. Nevertheless, Batman Begins is better known for creating a unique Gotham, one that gives us an understanding for where the likes of Joe Chill, the man who shot Bruce's parents, comes from, as well as for how and why organised crime and corruption can thrive within such a place. In short, Gotham is rotten, and we see this physically. There is rubbish strewn onto the streets. There are leaking pipes and smoke in the Narrows, the city's claustrophobically built decaying slums. And there is graffiti drawn on the rundown subway train. The cinematography gives the audience the impression that this is a horrible place, one that good people would want to stay an ocean's distance from, and preferably the biggest ocean at that. Moreover, the dark nature of the cinematography seeps into the character's speech, especially the humour.
Bruce, help me out here. Huh? Well, a guy dresses up like a bat clearly has issues.
For my opinion, you need to lighten up.
All of these jokes, if you can call them that, are apt for the film because of the grittiness of the cinematography. Plus, there is even a subliminal message in the cinematography itself. This is when Rachel drives Bruce to Falcone and thereby shows us Gotham's two-tier system. On the surface, the city has glossy, high-rise office blocks and seems to be flourishing financially. But go down a level and you see Gotham's underclass, the people that the elites have neglected for a long time. Some would say it sounds like our own elites. The contrasting imagery between the rich and the poor is striking. It highlights the inequality that exists in this Gotham, and it truly is cinematography at its finest. The music in Batman Begins. The film would not be as good if it did not have a world-class score to go with it. Hans Zimmer, who else, produced a music score that was at once dark, gothic and adrenaline pumping for when Bruce dons the Batgear, yet at the same time it is also wistful, heartrending and touching for when Bruce looks back at what he's lost. The music is astonishing. It enriches every scene and enables us to become ever more absorbed into the movie. The film's ending. Batman Begins has an awesome ending that can be split into two parts. The The first is of Bruce amidst the smouldering ruins of Wayne Manor, with Rachel and Alfred. This is when Bruce shows us that he is a changed person from the one we met in the Chinese jail, thereby completing his story arc. And Rachel admits that she was wrong about him, which is quite an admission. Yet the ending is not all happy for Bruce, as Rachel tells him how proud she is of him, but also tempers this by saying that they cannot be together. This is what makes the ending nuanced, as Bruce pays a price for becoming Batman. Furthermore, there is a touching reminiscence that reminds us of the positive influence that Bruce's father had on his life. Plus, Alfred suggests that Bruce should make improvements to the southeast corner of Wayne Manor. This is the place that will ultimately become the Batcave, and it hints that Bruce still has a way to go before he is the fully fledged Caped Crusader that we are familiar with. Lastly, the final scene is of Batman with Jim Gordon, who has now been promoted to Lieutenant following his work with Batman. The scene gives off a tremendous sense of optimism. With Batman's help, Gordon and the police force can make Gotham safer again, even though they still have a seemingly insurmountable amount of work to do in order to fulfill their ambitions. Batman subsequently shrugs off Gordon's fears of escalation, before the film reveals who Batman's foe is going to be next.
Leaves a calling card.
This is a phenomenal way to end the film. The Joker is Batman's traditional nemesis, and it leaves us excited for the next installment. And that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you for watching, and I really hope you have enjoyed this review of Batman Begins and have seen why and how it is such an amazing example of how to write an origin story. Like, comment and hit that subscribe button, and tell me, did you enjoy Batman Begins? Is it your favourite in the trilogy? Moreover, my debut fantasy novella, The Sultan's Daughter, is out. It may lack a superhero like Batman, but if you enjoy reading a book that is short, fast-paced and full of suspense, check it out. I have left a link in the description below. Otherwise, join me next time when we'll review The Dark Knight. Until then, keep well. Once again, guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it and I hope you've enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button and then you will be the first to receive more awesome content from my channel, and I hope to see you again soon.